Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the second season of Next Gen NYC. So on yesterday's recap of The Valley, I casually mentioned that I have been watching the season. I've also been watching OC. Those are the two shows that I just haven't been recapping because I've been pretty busy with getting ready to do some stuff upcoming, which I'm gonna some upcoming stuff that I'll be sharing with y'all soon. But I've been watching, and I was kind of wondering if y'all wanted me to come talk about it, just discuss it, not necessarily do like a traditional recap, but just like an overall recap of the second season. Because I do have a lot of thoughts. Some people said they would like for me to do it, so here I am. Here I am doing it. So let's get into this. So, I think that the first season was a great success. I know it was a great success. It did great as far as ratings, and it was a good show. It was about 10 episodes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did recap season 1. I did do that. So, season 2 is here. And coming into the season, one of the biggest updates was that we learned that Ariana and Hudson had broken up, which shocked me for sure because in the first season they were so cute together. I thought they really liked each other. They've known each other since they were like in middle school. I didn't see it coming. I thought, if anything, being on the show together would make them even stronger, but they broke up. So the season begins with that being the big story, of course. We had Georgia and Ava kind of be, they're a little suspicious of Ariana's intent behind this breakup. They think that she might be doing it for the show. And, eventually that gets brought to Ariana. She kind of confronts them and they kind of, resolve that issue. So that was one of the things that's one of the main situations that happened the first couple of episodes. Hudson is on the show still. He occasionally comes here and there. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. Now, who is new? So everyone from last season returned except there was a guy named Dylan, I believe, and he wasn't an official. Well, he was official, but he wasn't a full-time member. He was like a friend of, if you will. He's not back. But other than that, everyone else returned, and they added some new faces. They added Rowan, who is the daughter of Brooke Shields. They added Liam, and that's it. I believe that is it as far as like full cast members. There are a lot of new supporting cast members, if you will, friends of the main members. We have Gia's boyfriend who is showing up occasionally. Liam himself has a couple of friends that are quite involved, especially this girl named Kendall. And Ariana has like a new roommate because, again, since she broke up with Hudson, she did move out of the apartment they got together. So we see her roommate. Georgia has a boyfriend. She's got a friend. So the cast is very big. And, if you don't pay attention, there will definitely be a moment where you're kind of like, whoa, who is that? Because there are a lot of people. But I personally don't mind a big cast. If anything, I feel like a big cast means that we're going to get more drama, and there's more possibilities of different feuds and different topics to be talked about rather than just having a few cast members. Now I gotta say this, it feels a little strange watching this show because these people, like, they are my generation. I just turned 23 this year, and I believe Ariana is 23. I believe Riley might be either 23 or 24. Rowan is definitely 23. I remember seeing that. So they're all, around my age. So it's interesting to see them because these could really well be my friends in real life just based on what their ages are. But, it's funny because I always prefer to watch like older people. Housewives, these women are definitely much older than me. And that's why I've never really been into like Love Island and these shows with people my age. I don't know. I just find them to be too immature, and I already have to deal with them in real life. Why would I watch a show about people my age? But I have been enjoying it though. Regardless, even though they are my age, I have been enjoying it. The one thing I will say that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit is that, listen, again, on the younger side, there's been a lot of recaps where, on the Housewives, someone mentions something, or they make a reference to something, whatever the case may be, and I don't know. And I say in my recaps, I don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of people in the comments are like, "Oh, so and so is this person." And they kind of, they educate me because that is stuff that happened before my time. So I get that naturally there's going to be a lot of things that you don't understand, but it kind of makes me it makes me cringe when I see them like be dumb. Like there was a moment where Brooks is like he's clueless that there was a government shutdown during the BravoCon. Like, dude, you are not a little kid to not know about what's going on, and it's not a cute look. Like, come on now. I also don't like, and maybe they don't mean to do it like deliberately. They're not trying to deliberately be disrespectful, but I find it a little disrespectful when they talk about the Bravo universe. We're gonna get into this newest episode. They're going to BravoCon and they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. And it's like, excuse me, you're on Bravo. You should know whose shoulders you stand on. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the words of Nene, respect your elders. Respect the Housewives. They all apparently none of them know the Housewives. Y'all should, because if it weren't for them, y'all would not be here. So coming into the season, most of the group is not happy with Charlie. Charlie did a lot of chaos last season. He, definitely his behavior was the cast just was not having it. But the main person who is the most mad at him is Georgia. So as we all remember from last season, Georgia was dating this guy who always seems so shady to me. Like, I don't know, he always gave me bad vibes. They broke up while they were on a trip, and he left her there stranded, and then took out all her things from his apartment because at the time she was living with him. She then had to move in back with Charlie because they had been roommates before. So they've always been good friends, but Georgia found out that Charlie is now buddy with her ex-boyfriend, and I totally understand her anger in that sense. It's one thing for your friend to still be friends with your ex when it's just an amicable breakup, but when it's a breakup that involved me being stranded in Thailand or whatever country she was in, and then put me out in the street, and you're gonna be friends with that person, and apparently Charlie and Omar, her ex-boyfriend, are like partnering up to do a club, which is what she had been trying to do last season. So I totally understand Georgia being mad at him. I get it. Brooks is still mad at him because of the comments that he made about his sister Chloe, about his dad. I understand that too. Now the problem with Brooks is that and listen, I like Brooks, I think he's funny, but this season, I'm starting to think that he might not be cut out for reality TV. He came into the season mad at Charlie. There was a boys' night that Gia's boyfriend organized, and it was the most awkward night I've ever seen on television. There was a moment where they played some beer pong for about 5 minutes, and then after that, they were all just sitting on their phones, not saying a word, and Gia's boyfriend Christian kept texting her like, Gia, this sucks, I want to get out of here. It was so funny to me to watch how awkward it was. But in that boys' night, it's one of the first times that Charlie and Brooks are in the same place, and Brooks just cannot articulate his issues with Charlie. He was being avoidant, he was making faces, he just wasn't willing to confront him. And when you're on reality TV, that's not a good trait to have. You that's the whole point of reality TV. You need to be upfront and not be afraid to talk about your issues. Now there was another party where Brooks had a talk with his mom Meredith, and Meredith did encourage him to address the issues. There's a difference between disengaging and completely avoiding. So he seemed to listen to her, and he did talk to Charlie. Now we're going to get into Charlie and how much I just don't like him. So as Brooks and him were talking, Charlie was really upset that Brooks wouldn't talk to him, and not just not talk to him, but like that Brooks would like kind of act weird when he was there, which I understand that. I can totally understand that from Charlie's perspective. But as they're actually beginning to talk about their issues and Brooks is trying to tell him why he's upset with him, and he mentions that, he's really upset at the way Charlie spoke about his dad. Charlie says, F your dad. Oh my goodness. He says, F your dad. And listen, if anybody said F my dad to me, I would probably never speak to that person again. But it went even crazier because, Brooks is like, whatever, like, you don't even respect your own parents. Why would I expect you to respect mine? Charlie says, your father is the least respectable father in the world. He's a house husband. Those are fighting words for me. Sometimes I feel like it's worse for you to talk about my family than it is for you to talk about me. I don't know how Brooks was able to go past, like, move on from that. I definitely wouldn't. Now, Ava and Gia seem to have a little bit of a, there was some tension there at the beginning of the season. They were kind of still holding on to some of the beef from the season before. It was kind of carried on, but they worked past it. Ava had said that Teresa Giudice had unfollowed her on Instagram. Gia claimed it wasn't true and implied that Ava was a liar, but Ava, she held her own and she said, no, I have the screenshot. Your mom followed me and then unfollowed me. It's the truth. I'm not a liar. And I was pretty proud of Ava. Last season, Ava wasn't necessarily somebody who I thought was awesome. I thought she was really pretty, but her attitude kind of gave, like, kind of nasty. But this season, my opinion is definitely changing on her. She definitely came back much more humble, much more, I don't know, it feels like she's more sincere and more vulnerable, and I appreciate that. She has been going through it financially because she was evicted. She was evicted. She had to get out of the apartment that she was living in. She had like 10 roommates and none of them were paying the rent. So when you don't pay rent, you get evicted, which is so sad. I mean, I would hate to be evicted. So she needs a place. And maybe that's why she has decided to, changed her attitude on the show, because she's like, I need to make sure I stay on this show to get some money to find a place that I can afford. So yeah, and she also shared that her and her boyfriend have broken up, which we don't really even know her boyfriend for us to be that invested, but that's what she's going through. We've seen her talk to her parents a few times. She talked to her mom, Rachel Roy, which I believe she is a fashion designer, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't know, y'all. She had a conversation with her mom if her mom would let her help her, if her mom would help her getting an apartment, and her mom refused to, and she was like, I believe that kids after a certain age need to be independent, which I totally get that. If you're like 30 years old, you definitely need to take care of yourself. But I also, I don't know, I feel like when you're a parent, the type of parent that I think I'm going to be is, my child is my child forever. Whether they're 5, 15, 25, 35, or 55. If they need help, I'm going to help them. There's a difference between enabling a child to, not be responsible, to be reckless. If Ava was out here gambling and doing drugs and spending all her money on, crazy things, and that's one thing. But if your child, genuinely needs to find a place and is trying to hustle, because we do see Ava is trying to get into it. She's trying to become an influencer. She's going to Emira for some advice. Help your child out. I mean, they're your child. If you don't help them out, who else will? No one. So that's what I think about that. But yeah, overall, Ava, I'm liking her performance this season. Amira, who I just mentioned, we're getting to know her much more this season than last. We see her with her parents this season, which was really interesting to see. She also opens up about how being an influencer, while it has its great benefits and perks, and she does love the work, it definitely is draining. I mean, you're up all day long filming, just doing so many videos and having to post and having to do all that stuff. So yeah, I can totally imagine that it's difficult. I mean, hell, posting a recap, can be a little tiring sometimes. And I'm literally just sitting here and talking. So, having to be filming all day and tagging brands and having to work with them and do all this stuff, I definitely can see how that can be a lot. So it's interesting hearing her perspective on that. So Rowan is the daughter of Brooke Shields. Brooke Shields, I've heard of her for sure. Again, a lot of the cast was like, "Who's that?" Y'all, do a quick Google search. I mean, if y'all know that someone's daughter, if y'all know someone is coming on your cast and their mother's name is Brooke Shields, why don't you Google it? How about that? But Rowan, I like. She, even though her mom is an A-list actor, she is not one of these kids that's like, arrogant and thinks they're better than everyone. When you look, if you were to see Rowan in the street, you would honestly think she's just a normal, ordinary person in the middle America. She's humble, she's nice, she's funny, she's quirky, she's lighthearted, and I enjoy her. She is not, I don't see her really getting into any mess. She hasn't thus far because she doesn't seem like that type of person. It's really interesting. She graduated college. Like I said, she's my age. And like I said, her mom is an actress, but her father is a director. So Rowan likes this whole, writing thing. She wants to go into writing TV shows, writing movies, and she's starting to work on some projects. We saw a scene that I really enjoyed where she was with her dad. He was going over a script that she wrote, giving her some advice, what needs to be improved on. And that's just so interesting because we've never really seen something like that on reality TV, like someone wanting to be a writer. That's pretty interesting. So Rowan, I like. Let's get to another newcomer who I really like, Liam. This man is a renaissance man. I mean, the guy does like 20 different things. He rides horses. He's a firefighter. He plays hockey. He volunteers at a dog shelter. He's an actor. He makes films. He does so many things all day. He is busy and he rides motorcycles, So he's really cool. From the moment he came on the screen, I liked his personality. He's chill. He doesn't seem like the guy to, want to get into any drama, but he will if he needs to, which we're going to get into that. But yeah, I really do like his vibe. So, he enters the group and he brings some friends along with him. One of them being Kendall, and one of them being Jackson. Now Jackson happens to be Spike Lee's son, if y'all didn't know that, which I think is pretty cool. So the three of them have been really good friends. So when Liam comes into this group, he's immediately gravitated towards Ariana, and I totally get it. She is so cute. She has a great personality. And when a girl is, it's one thing for a girl to be pretty, but when she is genuinely a nice person, it makes them just much more attractive. It definitely does. So naturally, he's attracted to Ariana. They have a little bit of a flirty thing going on. Hudson, who happens to be around for the first few episodes, hears wind of this. And he pretty much sons Liam and says, I'm setting some boundaries. Like, that's my girl. That's my girl. And I really did not like the way Hudson was coming at him because, no, sir, she's not your girl because y'all broke up. You don't get to control who she dates or doesn't date anymore. And I get it. I think Hudson definitely likes her, and I don't think he's the one that wanted to break up. It was definitely her. And listen, if I was dating a girl that I really liked and she broke up with me and I was still hoping that there would be a chance that we would get back together, would I want her to date other guys? Hell no. But would I be out here trying to, tell them, setting rules for them? No. You just don't do that. But it really doesn't matter because Liam says F his boundaries. He's going to do what he's going to do, which he totally can, because who is Hudson to him? No one. He doesn't even know Hudson. He doesn't owe him no loyalty. So we see Liam pursue Ariana. He goes on a double date with Ariana as his girl, and then it's Kendall, his really close girl, his really close friend who's a girl, and she goes with this other guy. And you guys, I even talked to my sister about this and other people who have watched the show, and they said Kendall likes Liam. You can see it in the way she looks at him. And I didn't clock it at first, but as the episodes have continued on, I'm like, yeah, Kendall is in love with Liam. And even when, he talks about how he likes Ariana and the dates that he's going to take her on, she tries to put on a face of like she's cool with it or she's being supportive, but I can see that it's hurting her deep down. And I think she's a beautiful girl. I hope Liam realizes. I don't think he knows that she likes him. Hopefully he realizes it one day and realizes that, you know, what he's been looking for has been in front of him the whole time. Liam is super slick with it, though. He's got that riz, as the kids say. He learned that Ariana recently moved into a new apartment and needed to build a closet. So he's like, I'll go build it for you. And she's like, okay. And, you know, he goes. He doesn't really do it, but, you know, it's the thought that counts. And then he invites her to meet his family because he was having a little get together with his family. They do it every Sunday, which I think is cool. All the family gets together, they cook. Now, to not make things super weird, he also ended up inviting some of the people from the group, so they end up going. And after having a great time, he says to Ariana, what do you say we have a little date? And she says, okay. So they have a date, they ride a motorcycle. And the thing about Liam is, I applaud him because he did such a great job on this date that he took Ariana. He reached out to Ariana's roommate to ask him for Ariana's shoe size, because after the motorcycle ride, he took her ice skating and bought her some skates. And I just thought the way he planned it was super cool. One more thing about Charlie that I wanted to mention. Other than him being on the out with almost the whole cast, there was also a lot of controversy coming into the season because he was living in some quote-unquote crypto house where one of the guys living there was arrested. And while he was getting arrested, somebody took a picture. Charlie was in the background witnessing the whole thing. And some people are like kind of, you know, they want to tread lightly with that. Because, listen, I'm a firm believer that who you surround yourself with I don't know. I don't know if I want to say it's a reflection, because it isn't always, but chances are if you're hanging out with shady people, you're probably shady more likely than not. If y'all get what I mean. All right, so we've talked about pretty much everybody. Let's get to Riley. If y'all been watching, y'all already know. So Riley had not really been on a lot of episodes at the beginning of the season, and it was like, where is Riley? Well, Riley had been traveling the world with her parents, which I love that for her. It seemed like she had a blast. She went to South Korea. She went to all these countries. Now, we see a scene with her and her boyfriend. It was whatever. But then what really gave everyone something to talk about was a girls' night that happened. And this actually happened at the same time as Gia's boyfriend was having his terrible failure of a boys' night. But in this girls' night, you know, Georgia was there, and so were all the other girls. But Riley still doesn't seem to like Georgia, which is totally understandable, right? But things definitely started to look ugly when Riley wouldn't stop making these snide comments. For example, Ariana and Riley have this playful little game that they have when they have drinks. And Georgia made a comment about like, oh, I already, was starting to drink or whatever. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But what matters is Riley says to her, well, whatever, you weren't even part of the game anyway. I was like, okay, ouch, but okay, whatever. And she keeps making comments about, is Georgia washing her hands now? Did she finally wash her hands? Is she still dirty? Now, in that same girls' night, Ava and Riley go to the side for a little bit. Riley said in the middle of the conversation, Riley says to Ava, "Buy me a drink." And Ava's like, "Are you gonna say please and thank you?" Riley says, "No. Don't ever tell me to say please and thank you. I don't say that." Whoa. Riley, what the hell? And now, to be fair, Riley have been drinking a lot, which she'd been drinking a lot last season too, which might be an issue. Because we talked about this on The Valley with Danny, being drunk is not an excuse, because if being drunk makes you behave a certain way, then it's time to stop drinking. So, she's saying that to Ava. Then they take it outside. Everyone goes outside, and Riley won't stop picking at Georgia. And, making all these comments that are shady. There's a point which she said, someone mentioned Birkin bag, and Riley said to Georgia, "You're the only one here who can't afford a Birkin bag. Why are you talking about it?" Things are getting, they're starting to heat up. Then this is kind of where I think Riley definitely crossed the line. She had already crossed a few lines, but here she really crossed it. She accuses Georgia of doing ketamine, which is a drug. That is not cool. Riley, I don't know if you recall this, but your mother was involved in people accusing her of things that involve drugs, and your mother was not happy about that. She actually was crying on a reunion set over this. So throwing out these wild accusations is kind of insane. And not only that, she starts to get up close to Georgia's face and starts putting her fingers over Georgia's face. Ariana is trying to defuse the situation. She can see that Riley's been drinking. She is offering water. She says, "Look, there's some pizza over there. Let's go buy some pizza." Riley says, "I'm going to get the pizza and slap Georgia with it." It comes to a point where Riley grabs the glass that she was drinking out of and is about to swing it at Georgia. Luckily, it didn't happen. Because if it did, I don't know what would have happened. But that night was probably one of Riley's worst nights. She came across looking horrible, like a spoiled brat, like just not a nice person. Was Georgia making little comments here and there to, I guess, egg Riley on? 100%. But if we're also going to be honest, Riley's really lucky. Riley's really lucky that it wasn't anybody else, because there are very few people that would tolerate that. Being accused of doing drugs, being threatened to be slapped with a pizza, and then having the fingers all over the face. I really think that Riley, she had the right one, let's say it that way. Because I totally could have seen this going a different direction had it been someone else. So the next morning, or the next day, Ariana and Riley have a conversation about this night, and to everybody's surprise, Riley completely turned this over and blamed Ariana for almost everything. Because at this point, the blogs had picked up the leak that Riley had gone into it and almost thrown a drink at someone. We see Candy call her, and Ariana says, "I tried to help you. I tried to defuse the situation." Riley says, "No, you didn't. And my friends from back home would have defended me." And Ariana says, "What could I do differently?" That's one of the moments where I really respected Ariana, because, she said, "I did defend you, but you were coming at her. I did everything I could, but if you're saying that I didn't, then what could I do differently?" That is so much better than what I would have said, because had I helped a friend of mine so much to not look like a fool, and then the next day they're going to tell me that, not only tell me that I didn't do enough, but that their friends from back home would have done more? I would have said, "Okay, get out of my house. Get out of my house and go back with your friends from back home." Because that is so disrespectful. But nevertheless, that was that. Do I think this defines Riley as a whole? No. Do I think she's the worst cast member? No. But do I think it was horrible? Yes, it was. So that's what I want to talk about Riley as far as that. Alright, now let's get into Shai. So Shai never really was that involved season 1. And now here in season 2, he's starting to become a little bit more involved. But he was involved for the wrong reason, especially at the beginning. So Charlie, and Hudson all of a sudden became BFFs. Super close. And once they hear that Ariana has been kind of talking to Liam and that they went on this double date and all this stuff, they go and tell Hudson. Primarily Shai. Shai is the one who's like, at first he was like thinking about it, like, should I tell Hudson? I don't know. And he actually asks Ava and Rowan, should I tell him? And they say to him, you should ask Ariana first. If you're closer to her, then ask her first. He totally ignored what they said, and he still went to go talk to Hudson and told him everything. And of course, Charlie is so dramatic. He's like, yeah, bro, he wants to F your girl. So Ariana gets wind of this. She's really upset with Shai that she would do this, because in her mind, she, is much more of a friend with Shai than Shai is with Hudson. So she was confused about the whole thing. Shai tried to, make excuses as to why he did it, but it just didn't work. Shai came across looking bad. Now, some of the people in the cast believe that the reason why Shai did this is because he's secretly jealous, because he's always kind of had it for Ariana. And they think that's why he's told on her. I do believe that. I do believe he likes Ariana. Now, one of the things that has happened with Shai is that he has a clothing line, which I actually think the clothing line is super dope. And he wanted Ava and Brooks to model for him, take some pictures. And, he has he's barely starting out. So I'm sure that it would have been a few photos that it would have probably taken like 20 minutes for them to do. So he keeps texting Ava and Brooks, hey, y'all want to help me with this photo shoot? They're not answering. So he keeps on texting and texting and texting, and they are still refusing to answer. And I thought that was rude. That was very disrespectful. Have some decency. Have some respect for other people. You don't have to do it. You don't owe him that. But if you see that someone keeps texting you over and over again, y'all know damn well y'all are on your phones 24/7. It takes 3 seconds to say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't. But to constantly be ignoring somebody, I don't think it's cool. Eventually, Shai calls, after trying to get a hold of them for so long, him and Brooks have a FaceTime. And Brooks pretty much tells him that he's not going to do it and that he doesn't like the way that Shai's been moving in regards to Ariana and Hudson, him kind of getting in the middle of that and telling Hudson stuff. And Brooks says to him, and I know you're doing it because you said to me one day, Ariana looks super cute, but I could never do that to Hudson. Clearly indicating that you would, get with her if you could, but in your words, you couldn't because you wouldn't do that to Hudson. So Shai's kind of being iced out. Gia apparently doesn't like him either. Oh, I forgot to talk about Gia. Let me say this real quick. Gia, I did not like her first season. As y'all know, I am not a Teresa sympathizer at all. We're not going to get into that. But last season, I thought she was doing the most. Coming here with the raw. I really have enjoyed her much more this season. Just like with Ava, she definitely has changed a little bit. Her approach is different. She came much more calm. I can see it. She's not trying to get in the middle of all these fights and fight for other people and speak up. So I appreciate that. Like I said, we've been seeing more of her boyfriend. She has moved out of the home of, her family home. She is renting an apartment in Jersey City. It's a really nice looking apartment. Her boyfriend is now moving in with her. They did have a dinner where we see them talking about this. She really wishes that they could be moving in together, but he says it just didn't work out that way. He lives about 5 minutes away from where he works. It would make no sense for him to live somewhere where it's almost an hour. And I totally get it. It's one thing to move in together as a couple. It's another thing to move into your girlfriend's apartment. So I understand why he wouldn't want to move in. And I get it. Now, Emira has been one of the few people that has really stuck to Charlie, regardless of everyone kind of being against him. Now, what I didn't like at the beginning of the season with Emira is that she was kind of telling Georgia to essentially get over it. Like, get over Charlie and her ex being friends and stealing her idea of a club and doing it together. And I said, no, Emira. You don't have the right to tell somebody else to kind of get over it. Like, no, absolutely not. But there comes a point where after seeing that Emira has defended Charlie so much, Georgia's like, why do you keep doing it? And Emira's like, he's one of my closest friends. And the thing with Emira and Georgia is that they also have some beef because Emira is still holding on to this Ozempic comment that Georgia made last season, but also apparently Georgia heard through the grapevine that Emira was telling people that Georgia was trying to flirt with her boyfriend. So it's like, whoa, where is that coming from? So keep that in mind. So here Georgia has Emira telling people that she was flirting with her boyfriend, and also has her still defending Charlie and telling her to get over it. So when Georgia kind of says, why are you still defending him? Amir's like, well, Charlie's one of my closest friends. Georgia's like, oh, really? Because if we're going to be honest, he's one of the reasons why I found out that you were saying that I was flirting with your boyfriend. And you want to know what he did? He was actually laughing and telling me that there would be no way that could happen because your boyfriend is gay and likes men. Emira loses it because, In her mind, she's thinking, I've transitioned, I'm a woman, so technically my boyfriend's not with a man. She loses it, she demics herself, she makes a crazy exit. Now she does talk to Charlie and they resolve the issue, but then Georgia comes back and tells her that he actually said more. So she doesn't know what to think. So with all that context, let's kind of talk about this most recent episode. So in this recent episode that just aired yesterday, they go to BravoCon. We see the cast going to BravoCon. Now let me say, this brought me back. I went to BravoCon last year. It was an amazing time. It was the first time I had ever gone to Vegas. I had a blast. I wish I could go back soon. There's not going to be a BravoCon this year though. I think there will be one next year. So I'll probably go to that one because I really did have a great time. So we see them all arrive to Vegas. Now, once they are in Vegas, the group seems to be super, super close. And it makes sense, when even though they have their differences and whatnot, they're going into a new place where a lot of them are new to it, other than Gia, Brooks, and Riley and Ariana. All of them, this is their first time. And I think, being in a place where there's so many other people, it kind of makes you hold on to each other a little bit tighter. So I get that. They did have a blast though, being at BravoCon. They were really busy doing all the different activities and whatnot. And they actually won Rookie of the Year for the Bravos award show. So they go to dinner. They're having a great time. Now, let me just say this real quick. The new people did not go. Rowan, Liam, they did not go, which understandable. Makes me think maybe they hadn't filmed the season, but clearly they had already filmed the season. So, but I mean, I guess no one knew them yet, so I guess that's why they didn't go. But anyway, Liam did something really cool when Ariana got to Vegas. He actually had bought her a beautiful bouquet of flowers and sparkling water and chocolate that arrived to Ariana's room. So I thought that was really nice. So they're at this dinner, they're celebrating their award, they're all super happy. Now, Ariana and Charlie are a little too close for comfort. They are definitely flirting, just like it reminded me of last season when they were taking a picture and Ariana's like, Charlie, look. Well, it was kind of given that, but a little bit even more. So they're sitting together and, they're talking about, she's like, are you going to order a mocktail? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, do you have some chapstick? Could you put it on me? So they're just flirting nonstop. Meanwhile, it's really funny because as they're flirting, Brooks and Shai are going at it because at the BravoCon panel, Shai was asked who here should be more like Riley. And Shai said Brooks because he's not confrontational and he would work on that because he said himself that he's wanting to work on that. But Brooks is so offended because how dare Shai say this in front of hundreds of people and disparage him and embarrass him. Brooks, get over yourself. Come on now. You are on Bravo TV. You can't handle somebody saying that you need to be more confrontational because guess what? You do. You do need to be more confrontational. So apparently after the dinner, everyone was having such a great time that they all went to go party in Charlie's room. After they all left Charlie's room, Shai texts Ava and says, can I go have a drink in your room? Which is kind of weird. And I don't know why Ava said yes. Because if I were Ava, I would have been like, no, I'm going to sleep. Anyway, he goes to the room, and we hear the next day Shai telling Charlie that there was some flirty energy going on and that Ava gave him a look. So he asked if they could kiss. Now we hear Ava's side of the story, and she said that did not happen. They were sitting down, and all of a sudden he said, can I kiss you? And she said, no. Listen, Shai gives me the impression that he's one of those guys who, has a crush on every girl he's friends with. That's just kind of how they are. I don't know if she was giving him any flirtatious energy. I don't think so. He has been caught lying this season, so I'm going to have to believe Ava on this one. Now, what we do know is that Charlie was up all night texting Ariana. He sends her a picture of a vape, and he's like, if you left this vape on my room as an excuse to come see me, you might as well just come now. Oh. Now, we see them go through the next few days of BravoCon. Georgia was in her own little world, okay? She had like her own group of friends that accompanied her to BravoCon, so she kind of was in another world. Now, the last day arrives and they're heading back home. Ariana had a first class ticket. And we kind of find out that she gave up that seat. And where is she now? She's in coach, sitting next to Charlie. What the hell? Everybody's thinking, because when Ariana was at BravoCon, somebody had asked her about Charlie, and she actually said that as far as a hookup with him, she wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. That's interesting, because they're sitting like 10, not even 10 inches away from each other. They're like super close. And they have this look on their face, and I don't know what she was thinking. So then we see them arrive back to New York. Gia wants to host a Friendsgiving at her apartment, so she's kind of texting everyone if they want to come. They say yes, and then everyone's texting her what they will bring. So she makes a list, and she kind of puts everyone's names. So like Emira, she's bringing the pie, and Ava is bringing the mashed potatoes, and so on and so on. Now, she puts Ariana and Liam carrots and Brussels sprouts. And it catches everybody's attention because they are the only ones that are grouped in together. Now, guess who's on the group chat? Hudson. So he texts Ariana and he's like, "Are you dating Liam?" And then the final scene of the episode, we see Shai and Charlie at a bar. They FaceTime Hudson, and Hudson is like, "What's going on? Why is Ariana and Liam why are they going to bring Brussels sprouts together? He totally did not follow my rules." Hudson, I don't care if your dad owns Zaxby's chicken, Popeye's chicken, Kane. I don't care you're about your private plane and about all your Instagram stories flaunting your wealth. I'm not going to follow your rules. Who are you? Like I said at the beginning, who are you to be telling Liam what he can and can't do? So now this is where it gets interesting, though, because Hudson says, I'm really surprised that it is Liam. If anything, I thought it would have been you, Charlie. And Charlie gets all flustered. He's like, yeah. And then we end the episode with him and Shai. They're in the bathroom, and we just hear the mics. And Charlie's talking about how things are very much different off camera with him and Ariana, and he needs to figure out how much of her butt he can grab without being noticed. And then for the preview of next week, we see him being asked if he hooked up with her, and he says, "I don't kiss and tell." And that was the end of the episode. Now let me say this: if it turns out that in fact Ariana hooked up with Charlie, I am so disappointed in her. Out of all the men in the world, hell, all the men that were at BravoCon, all the Bravo celebrities, all these guys from Summer House and Winter House and Spring House, all these other shows, Ariana, you hooked up with Charlie? Really? That is disgusting. It really is. Like, come on. This guy is a mess. And this is what I was going to tell you. I really don't like Charlie. He is, first season, I really thought that, you know what, his parents probably didn't love him that much, and that's why he is the way he is. But coming into this season, he is really trashy to me. He speaks ill about everybody. He talks trash. I've been seeing the after show. He's so, he makes jokes about everybody. He teases them. He's the type of person who I'm sure body shames and calls people slurs and just makes fun of their appearance and their everything. I can tell based on his attitude, based on his comments that I've seen, and he really has got nothing going for himself. He's a LARPer. That's why he's really good friends with George's ex, Omar, because he wants to attach himself to anybody that has money, which is why he was super cool with Hudson at the beginning of the season. He can be trusted, because as we came to find out by Georgia, even with Emira, who is really a close friend of his, he was saying things about her. he doesn't honor any sort of bro code, girl code, friend code. He's disrespectful and rude. I just don't understand why Ariana did it. And she could have any man she wants. Charlie? Really? So we'll see how this all unfolds. Earlier today on social media, Hudson left a comment and he said, "Yeah, Charlie is still a bitch and a whole bitch." Charlie then responds and says, "You're so big and bad behind your phone. Where's this energy in person? 4 more episodes, we'll see who the bitch is." I was like, oh shoot. They did film a reunion, so we are getting a reunion this season, and I think this whole thing with Ariana and these men is gonna get crazy because now she's got 3 men who were after her: Hudson, Charlie, and Liam. I kind of feel it's a little disrespectful to Liam too. Not that not that they were in a committed relationship and she really owed him loyalty, but if Charlie is out here saying in this hot mic moment that Ariana is different with him off camera than she is on camera, it makes me wonder, was she playing Liam? I don't know. We'll wait and see. But y'all, this was my long recap of the 8 episodes thus far of Next Gen NYC Season 2. Please let me know your thoughts because I really want to hear from y'all and what y'all think. Do y'all agree? Do y'all disagree? Let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.